Everyone remembers the original Bardock special, right? The one that Toriyama liked a lot, gave a nod to it in the manga, and even said it was canon until he decided to make Dragon Ball Minus. You know, the old Bardock, who could see the future of his people, but is too late to do anything about it, and even if he wasn't too late, he can't convince the Saiyans to join him. Okay, but hear me out. What if Bardock did convince the Saiyans? What if Bardock's rebellion actually happened? So here we are. Bardock is badly wounded from his fight with Dodoria, and he makes his way to the bar that the Saiyans are hanging out at. I don't think this is supposed to be all of the Saiyans, but since Toriyama says not many Saiyans are alive at any one point, this is still a decent amount of them. Tangent aside, Bardock tells the Saiyans what's happening. The death of his team, the attack from Dodoria, and Frieza's plan for Saiyan annihilation. Unlike the original, the Saiyans actually believe him. Frieza's looming ship has already caused enough concern among them, but Bardock, a Saiyan warrior with a power level near 10,000, being so badly beaten, could only be done by one of Frieza's elite fighters. Now, this is where our setting makes the biggest difference. If we knew for sure that Bardock tried to make a rebellion in the Dragon Ball Minus version of events, that'd give us a month between Bardock sending Goku to Earth and Frieza destroying the planet. However, the Bardock special is far faster paced. There is very little time between Bardock being ignored by the other Saiyans and Planet Vegeta's destruction, so we don't have much to work with here. Assuming Bardock flying at Frieza's ship sped things up, and that Bardock was slow to get around Planet Vegeta, we may have a few hours if we're being generous. Back to the story though, with the other Saiyans on Bardock's side, word begins to spread. Saiyans are sent flying around the planet to inform their comrades, and within the hour it takes to gather as many as possible, Bardock is slightly healed by a rejuvenation tank. He's mostly back to full strength, but they can't delay. Frieza could attack at any moment. Bardock is surprised to find not only a majority of the Saiyans are outside his medical room, but also most of the elite Saiyans have joined them as well. Another quick side point, the tiers for Saiyans changes every interview, I swear. So I'm just going to use this system. The only super elites are Prince and King Vegeta. The elite Saiyan warriors are Nappa level fighters, mid-level Saiyans are Raditz tier fighters, and finally low-class Saiyans are Goku level, ignoring Goku's training and Zenkai's of course. Bardock asks these elite Saiyans if that means King Vegeta himself is leading their battle, but an elite steps forward and shakes his head. The king went to Frieza's ship to have words with the Emperor, but he's been gone far too long, and there are no lines of communication available. Given Bardock's own testimony, they fear the worst fate has befallen their king, and they'd be right. As Frieza said himself on Namek, he handled King Vegeta personally before destroying the Saiyan homeworld. The disappearance and presumed death of King Vegeta ignited a fire in the Saiyans. Bardock raises his bandana high and proclaims that the Saiyan blood that coats it will not be the only blood spilled today. As he ties it back to his head, the Saiyans cheer. It didn't need to be said. The Saiyans are simplistic and follow not only the strongest fighter, but the strongest fighting spirit, and none was more fierce than Bardock's now. Even more, their new leader represented something terrifying to Frieza, a Saiyan born with no potential who became powerful. The very dormant power that Frieza would rather eradicate than ever be forced to face head-on. With their new leader organizing them and the disappearance of their king fueling their desire for rebellion, the Saiyans form a true army for the first time in Saiyan history. Had this been a different universe, Saiyan unification could have led them down a different path, creating a peaceful future that allows them to truly tap into their potential with each passing generation. But this militia is not in Universe 6, and even if it was, they have an Emperor to overcome before they can ever achieve a future like that. Some of the elite Saiyans ask where Prince Vegeta and Nappa are. They'd be great assets for the coming battle since Vegeta's power even eclipses his father's despite being just a child. Someone relays that Vegeta, Nappa, and Raditz have just gone off-world to conquer a planet in Frieza's name. The muttering in the crowd becomes a roaring discontentment. Their finest warrior, Planet Vegeta's brightest future, the Prince, was being used as a lapdog for Frieza even now as he schemes to destroy the Prince's kingdom. One Saiyan elite goes to open a line of communication with the young Prince so he can know of the coming battle and to return home, but before he can, Bardock destroys the scouter. The elite look at Bardock with disdain and ask what he thinks he's doing, but Bardock asks them the same thing. Every transmission sent out over scouters can and will be picked up by Frieza's men. That's why the Saiyans were gathered by word of mouth. They can't risk the rebellion being discovered early. Time is already limited as it is. The Saiyan elites apologize, and one asks what their plan is. Without Prince Vegeta, their battle power is greatly diminished. Bardock says there's only one way for them to contest Frieza and his men, the Ozaru form. Muttering happens all around them. It has been known that the Ozaru form makes the prince even more powerful than Captain Ginyu himself. If an army of Ozaru descended on Frieza, then Frieza's forces would be crushed, leaving Frieza vulnerable to ambush. Bardock asks who among them knows how to make a Power Ball. A few mid-class and elite Saiyans raise their hands. Since the Power Ball lowers the user's power level, they can't risk an elite Saiyan to create it. So the weakest among the mid-class warriors will make one for the entire army. With the power of the Ozaru, even the weakest among them can battle against some of Frieza's strongest men. The regular fodder would be nothing to them, so they can focus on Frieza's higher-ranked forces. They should even be able to take down the Ginyu Force should they be around, and then they'll all converge on Frieza himself. With the plan made, the Saiyans let out a roaring cheer. Today, they will be free. There's no reason to work for someone else, no reason to conquer planets in another person's name, and no reason to send their children away on missions of death and destruction. Before the mission begins, an older Saiyan elite takes Bardock aside and says that the plan won't work. As he says this, a vision of Planet Vegeta's destruction enters Bardock's mind once again, but he shakes it off, knowing he's about to change that fate. Destiny is his to control, not the other way around. Bardock tells the elite Saiyan to speak his mind. The Saiyan bows and tells Bardock that even in the most optimistic outcome, they would still fall to Frieza. To truly combine their power, they need coordination. Not everyone is as strong as Bardock is, and no individual Ozaru is stronger than Frieza. Bardock asks what he's suggesting. To run? Call off the whole thing? The Saiyans, and more importantly Bardock, won't have that at this point. The elite Saiyan shakes his head and simply says that they must have a plan for when Frieza arrives. Based on their Ozaru power levels, if they all combine a single blast at Frieza, the power level of that attack would be around 50 million. That would guarantee the win for their forces. Bardock considers the idea and ultimately agrees. He tells the Saiyan elite to inform the others. Fate must be altered at all costs and with no risk. With everyone now on board with the revised plan, the Saiyans gather and fly into the sky. Frieza's ship is in the upper atmosphere, so it's still close enough that they can breathe the limited air available. Meanwhile, in Frieza's ship, Zarbon and Dodoria get ready to go after the Saiyans, but Frieza tells them to wait. I'd rather not lose good soldiers unnecessarily. Both Zarbon and Dodoria are slightly offended by the implication, but choose to bite their tongues. Frieza lets out his foot soldiers as he did originally, except this time Bardock isn't alone, and even worse, the weakest of the mid-class Saiyans creates a Power Ball. Both Zarbon and Dodoria realize the minute the Power Ball is launched that Frieza was right. If they had gone to fight, they'd certainly have died. This fodder should serve as enough of a distraction for me to stretch. It seems I'll be handling those pesky monkeys in a more personal way. As Frieza's soldiers fall to the might of a united Saiyan army, the roars echo down to the planet below, shaking the entirety of Planet Vegeta. Bardock roars to the other Saiyans that even their planet shakes with excitement for the freedom that will soon be upon their world. As the final soldiers are handled, Bardock and the other Ozaru see Frieza exiting his ship. Your duplicity was expected, but I had hoped for a greater effort. Frieza begins to maniacally laugh. None of you is even a quarter as strong as me. A Saiyan warrior is truly nothing after all. Bardock's face contorts into a wicked smile as he thinks to himself, a single Saiyan warrior
you